Yeah, ladies and gentlemen,
Moly.
welcome to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. We are back, your go-to source for everything related to the dynamic world of real estate in the beautiful city, our nation's capital, Ottawa. I'm your host, Paul Stevenson. I'm thrilled to be joined by my esteemed co-host, Greg Campbell, and David is not yet with us. David Warren will be here shortly. He's en route to the studio together. Our dynamic trio is committed to delivering engaging and informative episodes. I'm scratching this. We're live. What's going on, Greg? We're back.
Scratch that chat GPT nonsense.
Yeah.
We're live. This is crazy. It's like you think that we're going to come on. It's going to be elaborate. We're going to come on. Everyone's going to see us. It's like, what are they going to do now? It's like, no, more of the same. We're the same guys. We're doing same thing. But we had a break.
A little older.
And we're a little older, a few weeks older, and we're back to share some knowledge, I hope, and learn a little bit at the same time.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on right now in the market. Obviously, headlines. Every headline you're reading, at least that we're reading, is real estate. Should we get right into it, Greg? We're live. Do we want to talk about what we're doing, what's happening in our summers? Nobody cares, do they?
No one cares. You know what, though? Some people care because it also gives us time to kind of let people join in. They'll get that notification that we're live now, so maybe we should just stumble.
Well, tell me about your world champion dancers that you happen to live
the
with.
Kids won first place and second place in Whistler Dance World Cup. That was pretty impressive, pretty wild.
I told Greg his daughters are world champions. He didn't want to accept it, but it
seems like a lot, but they're great, and they did it. They kicked butt. 9 and 7 years old, dancing for their lives in Whistler against some of the best in the world, and we saw it. It was incredible. It was great time.
Yeah, the photos looked amazing. You guys did a little sightseeing while you were there.
Yes,
in the mountains
of Whistler and Blackcomb.
It's like the Sound of Music over there. The Campbells.
It is
standing
like
in the mountains
over there. Yeah,
that's what I thought of.
You just want to prance through the mountain side.
Oh, I saw that video of you in your dress dancing through the meadows. It was amazing.
I did that. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're leaving soon. You're on a little family trip soon.
Yeah, we're gonna get away. We're looking forward to it. We're heading out west too, to Banff. So we went there a few years ago. I went there a few years ago, and it was at my age, a little younger than yourself, Greg, but still old. At my age, it's rare that you see something that's like awe-inspiring, So
yeah, and many people don't know this, but you know this because you were there. Birthplace of me.
Yes, Greg was born in Banff.
Born in Banff.
So I'm going out of respect for you, really, more than anything. Just going to show my kids where you grew up. They're like, this is Greg's home. Yeah, that's why that's the main reason. But we're looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. We've actually we haven't been on a family trip together since pre-COVID, so it'll be nice to just kind of get the suitcases out, get on the plane, do the whole thing. It'll be lots of good memories, and something that I'm really excited for. And
I think it's gonna be amazing for sure.
I know Dave was away. He's gonna miss the intro, unfortunately. He's probably tuning in live from his car, so he has been away, but we'll let him speak for himself when he gets back, just so we're not.
We'll have to give Dave a little slap. Little ruler to the hands, ruler to the wrists.
We should say we are live. So on YouTube, there is a portion there where you can chat. So certainly throw in any questions you have there. Producer Steve will throw them up on the screen so we can see them, so we're not missing anything. And we got lots to cover. I'm sure a lot of people have questions about where's the market going? What's happening with these rates? What the hell's Tiff Macklem doing at the helm over there? And what's happening with these lowered inflation numbers? There's a lot of headlines, a lot of clickbait. Laurentian's selling. What? OSFI's changing rules. There's so many things that are happening right now in the market. I can start by at least what I'm seeing before we get into specifics, because I feel like, I know Dave's definitely going to want to comment and discuss the rate increase last week and, all of that stuff. So for me, what I'm seeing a lot of newly self-employed people. So this is something that, you maybe would have thought of, but I guess coming out of COVID, a lot of people working from home, a lot of people started kind of, side hustles, as you might want to call them, or part-time self-employment. And they've taken that on full-time kind of throughout COVID. So I've seen more people now that have, maybe a year to a year and a half of self-employment. And I've seen lenders and insurers, CMHC has actually accepted for one client. We had one full year last year, 2022, and then they actually used like a year to date for 2023 and did like an average of the year and a half. Other times I've seen CMHC use, if they were in a similar industry previously, if they were in consulting or something with the government and now they're doing their own consulting, same industry, as maybe it's a bad example, but you get the idea. In that case, they'll actually use like a 2 or 3 year average of their income. So, a portion of their salary, portion of their self-employment, and then kind of a year to date. So pretty interesting. Like, it seems lenders and the insurers are willing to be creative in getting people approved. And I would also say that, even with these rate hikes, it seems like people are still shopping, asking questions. It seems, I know we talked about this before we went on the break, but it seems like people are undeterred by these rate increases. Like, it kind of is what it is now. I've even, last week I went through all of my pre-approved clients and basically, anyone that was pre-approved on a fixed rate, I basically went through, or variable rate, excuse me, and explained to them the impact. Bond rates are up recently, which I know we'll talk to with Dave as well. But that's forcing fixed rates up. So anyone pre-approved on a fixed rate has to be pre-approved again, unless, that rate is locked in. So people are just, they're accepting of it. They understand it's a moving landscape. They kind of know what they're getting into. And I think realtors and mortgage agents have done a really good job of explaining to people what to expect when getting into the market. Like, this is the current landscape we're in. These are the rates we're dealing with. So I don't think there's that same sticker shock as there was, so reaching out to these people with regards to their pre-approval, some people maybe, their pre-approval might have lowered 20,000, 25,000. And it's just kind of like, okay, appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to keep shopping. Like, we'll find something. So yeah, it doesn't seem, it's shifting people's targets, but it's certainly not deterring people, at least what I'm seeing.
However, I will say something about that is that I agree with you wholeheartedly. I see the same thing. However, I will say that based on the late start that we had this year, and I think if you go back in past episodes of TOREP, towards the beginning of the year, we thought because it started late that it would just steamroll through summer, which it hasn't. It didn't last year. We also predicted that on TOREP. And this year, I think we kind of assumed that it may, but I think with the rate hike right before summer and with it being summer, everyone just kind of said, yeah, you know what? I'm down. I can do stuff, but I'm also going to just kind of take a step back.
Yeah. No one seems in a rush, which is
no one's in a rush. So it's so it's two things. Like, I agree 100% with what you're saying, that people are just kind of like, whatever, this is what I can do, I'll do it. But I think there's a pause on it again, which is a typical summer in Ottawa, which we didn't really think was going to happen. I think a lot of realtors thought that it was just going to steamroll right through to the fall. But now with this change and, people just, doing a typical Ottawa summer. But of course that's not real, right?
Yeah, well, people are now, it's that time of year. People are at the cottage, they're camping. It's like, okay, let's just wait. We'll wait till September, October. Now, with the inflation numbers coming out today, I'm sure, anyone who's tuning in might have heard inflation numbers came out either down to 2.8%. Strongly, that was primarily based, certainly not on housing costs, primarily based on, I had it written down here. Lower energy prices. So gas prices have come down slightly, and decline of goods pricing, which I think year over year is still up like 9%. I think I saw earlier, like the price of groceries and things like that. So kind of surprised to see a decline there. But some of the other numbers, there's 60,000 new jobs created in June, and that's obviously driven by like immigration and new Canadians. So in June, 84,000 new Canadians and 60,000 new jobs. So there's kind of this weird thing happening again with inflation, where the immigration is actually adding both demand and supply to the economy, in the sense that, it creates inflationary pressure on everything, and deflationary on wages, in the sense that, like, it's helping the employment side of things. It's avoiding job shortages, and it's adding consumer spending, but it's also adding to the demand for housing, which is why, we're seeing kind of what we're seeing right now, where, as you said, like, there's kind of that summer break happening right now, but there's still a lot of people active in the market looking for homes. And I don't think we're going to see as much of a decline as people expect. Like I know, Tiff was saying the last time they raised rates, they saw a real, halt in the market. But that was also, as you said, that's like going into May, June. I think a lot of people were just like, fuck it, we'll just
That's
sit on the
all that it
sidelines for
is,
a few
man.
months.
That's all that it is. I don't think that like, yeah, it's not a thing. It's I think it's determined on just people being ready for summer up here, and it's traditional Ottawa changes, right? I'm looking at a question here on YouTube from Sasha 9075. Toronto freehold prices are down 100K month over month in June. How's Ottawa comparatively holding up? We're down 4%, since like through June. So definitely not the same thing, but also a different market. I don't know if we'll ever see something that drops that drastically. I also think that I don't think that that's a good number to look at because you're not paying attention to the neighborhoods specifically. That's a very vague interpretation of the marking. 100K, month over month in June. That doesn't really make a lot of sense because some neighborhoods may be down 10,000. Some with stronger numbers will be down like 100,000. You really got to look at the neighborhood. Ottawa's doing okay. We sold. Let me just do this quickly here. In June we had a decrease down 4%. From 2022, still on par with 2023 prices. Condominium class is an increase up from last year. Year to date, we have a 10% decrease from 2022. So, again, to be fair, we're still, maybe it's a little bit more accurate, but it depends on the neighborhood. And
prices May to June didn't change. They're basically at par in Ottawa. And I think July, we're probably going to be maybe slightly up. Like I would say probably on par again. And then I think go leading into, September, August, September, et cetera, I think we're going to see prices start to creep up again. And, with the inflation numbers looking like maybe more likely that there won't be a rate hike in September, I think that's going to stimulate the market even further. And I'm, putting an optimistic prediction that we're probably going to see that prime lending rate come down maybe 12 months time, like 9 to 12 months time. We'll see that rate start to come down again.
2025 seems to be the new prediction, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's hilarious.
We'll see. Dave, welcome.
This was also
welcome,
never
gentlemen.
supposed to happen. David, how are you?
I'm good. I'm racing through freaking out traffic lights and stormy weather, and sorry for my tardiness.
It's like a hurricane outside suddenly. I'm looking out the window here. It is
outrageous. Apologies to everyone, to all.
That's okay.
For sure. We're talking about all the announcements. The Bank of Canada increased the inflation rate. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle.
It's almost like there's been 4 weeks of news that we haven't touched on.
Well, yeah, and I'm seeing the questions slowly roll in here. This is great. I think it's going to be a fun time. Let's get into some of these questions.
I think I'm sure you already touched on it, the inflation side of it. It's really interesting. And I know the three of us were kind of chatting back and forth a little bit today about it. With inflation being down at 3.8, what we saw with the US numbers come in. It's going to be interesting as well. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 19th, the retail data comes out for Canada. I think that will be interesting to see. I think that'll have a big impact on, where things are at. Inflation's down, but what that retail data is saying, I think from an inflationary standpoint, because I know we were talking about it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy of, inflation being at 2.8, it was at 3.1. But when you remove the continuously increasing interest payments on mortgages from inflation, it is significantly lower. So,
and the thing that's funny about Tiff too is like every time Tiff Macklem, every time he says, like, makes an announcement, it's like his threat is basically raising rates. Like I think before he said like we need more population growth or else rates are going to have to go up. And now he's saying the immigration and population growth is actually causing rates to stay up. It's like he's just throwing darts. Like I'd like to think obviously that he has better foresight than I do given his role and can see what's happening in the economy. And you have to assume maybe that they're doing this and it's actually going to, benefit everyone long term. But it's just funny. It's kind of like, here's my demands, and if you don't do it, I'm raising rates. It's like
I think
this,
they're just making fun of us. I think they're just making fun of Canadians.
But I think so. To Henrod's question, saying welcome back, fellows. The question about the Bank of Canada's 2% inflationary target, is 2% based on anything? Just wondering broader policy. This is something they brought in quite a while ago, and by quite a while within the last 20 years of having that target of 2 to 3%. This is not something that has ever really been like, this isn't historical of like that this 2 to 3% inflation target has been there. So it's not based on broader policy, really, to anything that you guys touched on before I came on, was federal, the feds, and the Bank of Canada don't talk. And so the policy of what the feds are doing is not aligned with, really it is contradictory to what the Bank of Canada is trying to do. Raising, in spending in the economy for non-infrastructure items is going against what the Bank of Canada's objective is of driving down inflation, which is, you need less spending in the economy. And so when you have you're being overstimulated, that's, going to drive inflation. Huge swaths of money coming in from immigration and students and things like that, of $1 million last year. The first what was it, quarter of this year was 500,000 that already came in for 2023. There's obviously going to be an issue with housing, and there's going to be an issue with inflation. You're bringing in new money, new demand. And so that's it. The two policies are not necessarily aligned, and Bank of Canada their mandate is to operate independently of the federal government, just like the Federal Reserve and the feds in the US is to operate independently of the government in the US. They're not supposed to be fully, but so that's something newer of that target amount.
Yeah, and the Bank of Canada is like, their only goal is to tame inflation. Like, that's like their primary objective. And inflation is basically just, at a very simple term, Henrod, is just like, how much more do you have to spend on the same items in your day-to-day life this year compared to last year? Like, how much is the cost of living basically increased from last year? And that's kind of what they're basing that number on. Now, I was saying, Dave, before you came on, that in June, for example, there was 60,000 new jobs created, which sounds great, but there was 84,000 new Canadians that came into the country. So now, there's a shortage of jobs again. So it's kind of like this, but also the immigration, again, I kind of touched on this before, but it actually helps in the sense that it avoids job shortages because there's new people and new spending and everything, like you said. But then it also creates a demand for housing and for all those other things. So it's kind of like this weird circle that we're in. Like, you can't, if they lower rates now, which would lower inflation further, well, then it's going to cause probably a huge stimulation in the housing market, which is going to drive prices up, make the cost of living more expensive for most people, and rent is going to increase, and everything goes up. So it's kind of like, what is the solution? What's the,
It's certainly a challenging, to exactly what you're saying. It's very challenging, and I don't envy the Bank of Canada or the finance minister and having to figure out like exactly is that you lower in one area. Like, I was speaking to a first-time home buyer yesterday, and she understands that the rates are what they are, and that friends are telling her, well, why don't you wait for rates to lower? But she understands that when rates lower, demand is going to increase, and so will prices. And so, like, understanding that getting in now, and we kind of talked about, date the rate. And so we talked about, like, if it's something where you're looking to buy as an investment to flip tomorrow, then it's probably not a good time for you, because it's not an increasing market. If you're looking, and as you should be looking, is that you're looking to buy and to live there and put a roof over your head instead of renting, and to live there for a long period of time, then you should have bought yesterday. Better time is today, and the next best is tomorrow, and kind of forget about that rate and just focus on it fitting your budget. And I think that's going to be really, it's vitally important over the next period of time. But I don't envy the Bank of Canada and exactly that, of just managing that demand and supply, and obviously the housing, and there's other aspects into it, and we kind of look at it as a microcosm of just real estate.
I think there's something that we all need to really consider, whereas like the world right now is a completely different place than it was in the past, where these things could be kind of predicted and targeted and whatnot. And what we've seen in the last few years and where the world is going right now, not just Canada, it's unpredictable. And so to your point, Dave, when you say like, you feel for what's happening, is that these people that are making these decisions, they don't really know, because something like this has never really happened globally. Like the things going on in the world right now have never happened, and a lot of stuff is changing. So then, people are infiltrated by the media. We hear what we hear. We have to do what we do and just see what's in front of us and try not to be distracted by everything going on. But there's no real right answer, and it's not going to get any easier. I think it's only going to get more difficult, because like you said, these people are trying to make decisions what they think is best based on what they know on history, and history in my mind right now is completely irrelevant, because that it's you work with historical data, and to some extent, as we've talked on the show, it makes sense. Like the cycle of Ottawa real estate, it makes sense, but as of right now, I don't know if it makes sense anymore. Like, you know what I mean? You look at that historic 20-year cycle that we always talk about. I don't think that's going to be the same thing in 20 years. It's like it's a roller coaster, but you just have to kind of like look at what's in front of you and make the decisions, because the people that are making these calls and choosing what's what, and the inflation, the rates and everything, they don't know. I don't think they know.
I still think, like we've talked about this all year, but I still think we're in a very unique position where, and I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but I feel like the Ottawa market is, and maybe Toronto, maybe Vancouver, like prices have dipped, but I just don't, like, there is forever a lack of supply. Like I just don't see how, with the immigration we have, with the jobs being created, with just the lack of supply currently, I think we're going to inevitably see prices go up. Like I think the last dip that we saw,
absolutely,
we were talking about like a dead cat bounce at the beginning of this year, and it's going to plummet in the next 6 months. But like, I think we will see maybe some distressed selling. I think this last rate hike is something where it was kind of like maybe the straw that broke the camel's back as far as people's ability to withstand it. I think people are not at their breaking point, but they're fearful of another rate hike, which would then push them even further. So I think we will see some distressed selling, which will probably, I think, stimulate the market, but I don't know what impact that'll have on prices. You would think it would drive it down, but I think if there's enough properties, they're going to get purchased really quickly just because of the demand, and then we're going to see prices bounce out and then go up again. But what do I know?
I don't think that any distress selling is going to create added supply on the market. There's like, those are going to get plucked up by an investor or by that family that's looking, or whatever it may be, because people are waiting and looking for a deal and understanding, like that lady yesterday that I was speaking with, understand the market, and understand that we just got to fit our budget right now, and so let's look for what fits our budget now and what we want to put a roof over our head at. But Canadians, we have one of the highest per capita, or the highest per capita home ownership ratios in the world. Europe, the US, it's predominantly renters. And so Canada is predominantly and in crazy high figures of ownership. We're going to see consumer debt defaults increase, like on credit cards, lines of credit, as this high rate environment continues, because it's bumped up all those credit facilities. Those will go. I think we'll see that increase, and on car payments and all of that. But I don't foresee there being a big spike, even though this will continue. And I do agree, Paul, I think it'll take 9 months, a year for us to start seeing some decreases in prime. But I think we're still going to see people making their payments on their mortgages.
I agree.
We're not going to see the defaults. I think default numbers are going to stay very low.
maybe distressed was aggressive. More so, I think people are going to look at downsizing, like maybe moving to the Smiths Falls or somewhere it's actually more affordable. They have more cash flow. They can actually breathe for a few extra years as opposed to being house poor. I think that we might see more of that, people downsizing, which is historically not like, unless you're going into retirement and you're typically like, okay, we don't need this huge house anymore. Kids are, we're empty nesters, etc. But I think we may see families start looking at that sort of downgrade, which again is just going to make more people like, I don't think those properties are going to sit on the market. I think they're going to get scooped up quickly, the ones that are listed. But I'm saying, I guess in the short term, because of this rate increase, I think there's going to be more of those conversations happening of like, what should we do with our finances? Like we can't afford 4 more hikes, 5 more hikes. So like what, I think people are having those tough conversations now, as opposed to maybe the first couple where it's like, it'll balance out, the budget will balance itself, it'll figure itself out.
Just cancel it. Just cancel the Disney
What was that?
subscription.
What was that comment? I couldn't believe it. Like I had to research it because I saw that.
Cancel the Disney Plus subscription.
The whole thing on it. Yeah, right. The whole thing of under the conservatives, your mortgage you would be paid off in 25 years, and under the liberals, it's you have to save for 25 years to get a house. And then I did some research on it, and it's pretty, like, it's accurate based on even like the last 5 years. It was 17 years, 19 years, 21 years, and then now it's 25 years. So it's like, how is that even like, you never see that really promoted until recently, obviously, because, they're trying to change the
narrative.
Change the narrative, which is great, but it's like, wow, to think about that. You have to work for 25 years on average for the average income to save for a down payment. And then in 25 years, what, like, how do you even, like, are we even here? Like, are we here in 25 years? Like, I don't even know what that means. It's such a weird thing to think about. Like, for someone just to think that there's somebody who's listening to that and being like, okay, I need to save for 25 years to get a mortgage, and actually like to down payment for more, and actually think like, okay, I can do this. Like, what? It makes absolutely no sense. And it's not reality, obviously. I thought that was wild.
People talk about the interest rates being at 18% and so on. And the argument is obviously, well, homes were 30,000, 40,000 or whatever, 50,000 back then.
But that's what I mean. Like, whatever.
But it's the multiplier of your income to the house prices. Like back then, you might be buying a $50,000 home, but your income might have been 20,000 a year. So it's 2.5 times your income. Now it's like 10x your income you need to buy a house, right? To buy the average house.
But just the idea of actually putting that in people's heads that you need to save for 25 years, I'm just like, well, save for something else.
Yeah.
Invest in something else if you're seeing that, you know what I mean? Like, there's ways to do this. I think we should get into some of these questions. I'm seeing a lot pop up here.
So Lee says, how do lenders view this? If my full mortgage payment is interest and I'm looking to buy another place, what's the view of lenders and insurers?
Just to clarify, I have a variable rate mortgage.
Oh, I missed the second part.
And if my full payment is now all interest, do lenders count it as a strike against you for another purchase? So really, they're looking at your mortgage payment of what it is. They're not actually looking at how much is going to interest, how much is going to principal. There are, I believe it's 3 institutions that have the fixed, like, variable rate mortgages, or VERMs, as you put it, where your payment is locked in based on based on the interest rate you had on closing, and it's locked at that. Even as prime goes up or prime goes down, it's the amount of interest going to, like, in that payment, the amount of interest and principal are fluctuating. So there, for those that don't know the static payment variable rate mortgages, their banks for your next qualifying and insurers are only looking at what your payment is. You can voluntarily increase your payment with that institution, and it's to put that up, but they're not holding it against you, because that is that program and that is that product, and it's not to do anything with, like, your situation, if you will. It's just that's that product. It's not being held negatively against you. So if you qualify for another purchase, you qualify. They're not holding it against you by any means whatsoever.
Some just maybe think of this when you said that, Dave, but OSFI's actually talking about changing the rules so that those static payment firms basically don't exist. Like they're that's the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. But they're talking about basically getting rid of those static variable rate mortgages, or at least they're proposing it. Whether or not it's actually going to happen, who knows? But yeah, there's a lot of people I think now that have hit that trigger rate where, you know, they're paying only interest or maybe no principal at all. So now they've hit their trigger rate, and some people's like banks are confirming people have like, you know, 50, 60 year amortizations now because of the fact that they haven't been paying off principal. So that requires either the lenders to, you know, adjust their policies or make a lump sum or increase your payments dramatically, voluntarily.
I foresee it actually being changed to a fluctuating to like the fluctuating payment. I believe it's TD, RBC, CIBC that are the static. The remainder, Scotiabank, BMO, they do, you know, your monoline lenders. These are lenders that solely focus on mortgage lending, like First National or MCAP or RFA or Strive or any of these. They all fluctuate. So as prime goes up, your payment does as well. So it is quite a big portion of the market that have variable with these lenders that their payments do adjust. And I think it's likely OFC will make that change. I think because they're going to get pressure from the Bank of Canada, because prime increasing that prime hasn't put the hurt on the marketplace that they're looking for in order to speed up the inflation numbers and spending in the marketplace, because those lenders of TD and RBC and CIBC have a huge market share of mortgages, and those static payments are not, they're able to go about spending as if, you know, nothing changed with variable or with bank prime, whereas like the whole purpose of Bank of Canada increasing was to put, you know, and we said it many episodes ago before this break, of they're looking for blood in the streets, and the blood is not there. The sharks are circling, but they're not able to eat. And there's all sorts
of videos over social media last week when they announced the rate hike, and they're showing people at Costco, you know, overflowing carts, and people at the music festival doing this, and like didn't change anyone's.
But we have seen a huge increase in consumer debt. Yes, I believe it was down to Canadian consumer debt, I believe, coming out of the pandemic was down to 78 billion. Still crazy. However, is surpassed what it was pre-pandemic, and is up to 90 billion in since coming out of the pandemic, which goes to show you that people are not, you know, they've eaten up their savings, which we were at record highs during the pandemic of savings, record lows or records amounts of debt being paid down. And so we've come out in a very short period of time of like a year and escalated credit card and line of credit debt, depleted savings. And so people are still going about their day, but this is where it's like lagging numbers for inflation, that it can take upwards of 6 months for every rate increase. So I think there's still quite a bit of hurt to come from on the consumer debt standpoint, but
it's like it just seems in general, it's like, you know, it's like just hold. Like everyone's just got to hold. Even with, like, if you got a loan, you're paying interest, just hold. Like, you can get through it. Like everybody can get through this. It's unfortunate for the people that may have gotten scenarios where they can't do it, even though they probably can, you know, and they're selling or liquidating quicker than they need to, because they're scared because of everything that they hear. But I mean, this is one of those times. It's like, you know, if you're in trouble and if you can manage to just hold. Like I know I have some clients that are just, you know, they're on that interest only, and it's just like, you know, it's temporary, man. Like if you can do it for 12 months, in the end, it'll be okay. We hope. I mean, again, like we don't really know, but it's one of those things. Like you can think that, you know, because of history, you know, everything will be okay. But again, like I said earlier, it's unprecedented. We don't know what's going on. I want to answer this question that I got on Instagram, if you guys don't mind quickly here, before I forget. So he asked the question. Some of this has been answered. How are real estate values holding up with such high interest rates? That's part of it. Do you feel there is a low supply? Absolutely. Is the influx of people coming to Canada propping up values? Absolutely. Do you think there will be more insolvencies as people start renewing with the higher interest rates? Maybe. We touched on that. How are people qualifying at 8%? I find that that's an interesting question because, and you guys would know better than I, like 8%. Are people qualifying at 8% currently to get that rate, which is around like what, 5.5?
So they're qualifying, just not at the dollar amount that they're wanting to.
Right, but they're qualifying around
they're
that.
Qualifying for a mortgage. It's just not the mortgage that they're
but
hoping.
at 8%, that's where it's at right now.
Like a fixed rate at 5. If you're insured at 5.19, let's say, you're qualifying at 719. And if you're going variable at 6.3 today, then you're qualifying at 7.3, or sorry, 8.3.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it is in that 7. Yeah, it is in that like
7,
mid 7s to mid 8s. Yeah, it is. It is challenging. Like I was running through with an agent today of like, hey, I'm trying to refinance these people to buy another. Like, can you? And we went through it. I'm just like, yeah, no, they just don't qualify. Like, it's as simple as that. There's no way around it. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, but there's no solution.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before you came on, Dave, that people seem very like undeterred. Like, you pre-approve someone, say, hey, your buying power's down 25,000-30,000. It's kind of like, okay, like people there's not that same like, what are we going to do now? There's nothing available. Like, it seems like, homes are sitting, it seems, Greg, ones that aren't turnkey are sitting a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like people have any urgency. Like, they're just kind of like, okay, our target's changed and we'll just keep rolling and see where we end up. It's kind of so just like,
it seems like the next 12 months it seems like cash is king for the next year, basically, in terms of like, if you want to buy a house or if you're an investor, if you have money, like cash, yes, you're going to be okay, versus like you're saying, they can't qualify to get that second property because they don't have the equity. I mean, maybe they have the equity, but they don't qualify because or that, whatever. Right. So cash is king right now.
For sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
But, and I mean, that's no different though from a lot of other times.
No, but fair enough. But I'm just saying, it's one of those times, if you're an investor and you're sitting on cash, there will be good opportunities. You can weather it. Like you can do that 50-60% down payment or even less, but weather it. You know what I mean? And like lose in the short term, but in the end, it turns around, and it's a powerful position to be in.
I agree.
So I think I had a chart. I know there's another question there. I just wanted to say I had a chart that I was in reference to your comment, Dave, about the debt in Canada. So there's the total outstanding debt in Canada by product type. I sent it to Steve, but I'm not sure if he got it. I couldn't save it for whatever reason, but it's basically 82% of outstanding debt in Canada is by mortgage. This is by like product type. So 82%, 83% is mortgages, like 3% line of credit, probably 5% auto loan, 7% credit card, and then all other credit.
Wow.
So it's like primarily almost all mortgage and HELOC debt, which is interesting. That's 82.
Well, it is interesting, especially when we talk about how everyone's paying their mortgage, and that the debts that they're getting in trouble for or insolvent is with credit, cars, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you say it's that low of a number, like that's nothing. It's wild.
Or that just the mortgage debt is so high that it makes the other numbers look minuscule, like because home prices are so outrageous.
Now, kind of go. I'm going to touch on a question that I know was on the last episode we did, but I think it kind of ties in well with this of what somebody's qualifying for versus like an affordability question. Exactly that. I have an affordability question, as we are potential home buyers. What is a reasonable percentage of our take-home pay to spend on a mortgage plus condo fees if it's condo? I know there are certain qualifying criteria based on a percentage of gross pay, but I'd like a guideline on net pay from a qualifying perspective. But from a personal budget perspective, just because I can qualify for 4 times our income doesn't mean that that is an affordable amount. I think to this question from this Will Faulkner is like, it kind of ties into that qualifying side that we're talking about of like, what do you qualify for, at that 8% or whatever. Maybe you might qualify for an amount based at 8%, but that's not factoring in your life circumstance. So to this Will Faulkner's question of like, maybe you have kids, like that person that is qualifying based on 8% for that home and you qualifying at 8%, like your situation is different. Do your personal budget, break it down. Maybe you have kids and they don't, or you have 3 and they have 2. That's going to change things. Or you're, you know what I mean? Or you're single, like everyone's personal situation, or you've taken on a big car loan, or or you like to go out for dinner way more frequently than the next person. So that like by and large percentage of how much you should spend from a personal budget perspective, break down what you're spending on a regular basis. Where can you cut? Maybe you're saving for, you mentioned in that question of, looking in the next 3 years, break down what you're spending now. Where can you cut to maybe save that down payment to like buy, like if a home ownership's a goal to buy quicker, but also to be cognizant of what you're spending. And so that when you're qualifying for a mortgage, you're getting that mortgage payment, you're looking at what the property taxes are now, utilities, and factoring in the fact that all those qualifying ratios don't take into account your furnace breaking down, your air conditioner breaking down, leak somewhere or a window broken or insurance. So be cognizant as
all
you're
of which
looking
will
at mortgages. Happen. Yeah, that's home ownership. You mentioned getting a new condo. You're right. You don't have to worry about like, in that question they commented about a condo. You don't have to worry about a roof or the windows or, some of those main components, but there's still stuff that comes up. There's still,
and
that's
you
not
do have to
factoring
pay
groceries.
$900 a month for that.
Yeah, there's still not groceries. There's not, it's not going out to eat or regular spend or a birthday or this or that. So I think as you're getting into home ownership, do your numbers, don't overstretch. And I know a lot of people are getting co-signers because it is at 8% to qualify, and that's all fine and dandy. But again, your rate is still at 6 or 5%. Like, look at the payment, look at what you're spending on a day-to-day. Don't bullshit yourself of what you're spending. Don't try to be like, oh, well, I'm going to change my habit on this just because I got a home. That's not that's wishful thinking in a lot of cases, unless it's kind of becomes habit of saving on that in that area. But do your budget and be realistic with yourself, and then give yourself a buffer, because life happens, and life happens with the home. Life happens in general, and so running thin and just getting that mom and pop or friend or sibling to co-sign can get you that home. But again, you need to be cognizant of where you are in your day-to-day expenditures.
Yeah, 100%. And I've seen, I've had a few people finally, I've had conversations up to 2 years ago with people that wanted a certain type of property. Probably sound like I'm repeating myself, even though we've been off for 4 weeks, but I've had people I've been working with for, a year and a half or 2 years that wanted something. Their pre-approval kept going down and down. They wanted the house. They wanted the yard. They wanted everything. And I kept saying to them from the beginning, I'm like, if you want my advice, I'm like, you don't need it. I'm like, buy a smaller property. You can move into it or not, or you can stay renting where you are. 2 years later, they ended up buying that exact property. And now they're in it. They just kind of accepted it, but it took them that long to get it through their head that they didn't need to be in their dream home. I know we've talked about this at length many times, but it just happened. Like, I had 2 buyers that finally committed to that, and they're happy. They're able to purge where they're at right now. They're getting rid of stuff. They've committed to moving into a smaller home that fits in their budget, that they've had a good down payment for, and now they can build their equity. They can stay there for a couple of years and they can move on. And it's it's just, there's always opportunities. People just really have to, I don't know, listen to themselves or stop listening to themselves. And, maybe watch more Torah. I don't know.
There's a question on the live from a DH in Lee's situation. So above, we were talking about the static variable rate mortgage payment and whether lenders will count as a strike against them. He or she says, in Lee's situation, will the lender allow a new interest-only mortgage after renewal? Again, the bank you're going to is looking at the payment. That's it. They care about the payment for qualifying at that point in time. That's it. They're not factoring whether you're paying down principal or not. So
yeah, so I think in that sense, DH, you could, if interest only is going to be like, it sounds like he's basically only paying interest right now just because of the rate. But if you were to go into a secured line of credit, for example, that would be like actually an interest only payment. So if rates made more sense, then you're actually paying off a decent amount of principal. The thing is, now people are on 25, 30-year amortizations with their variable rate, and they're just paying off no principal. They're making a $3,000 payment, and 2,500 of it is going to interest, or 2,600. So you're just spinning your wheels. And let's not forget too, if people are buying a new home, let's say a first-time home buyer putting 5% down, they also have a 4% CMHC premium added to that mortgage. So they're moving into the home with 1% equity, and technically negative equity when you look at legal fees and closing costs and so on. So you need to be paying down your principal. You can't just be floating, spinning your wheels. And, then if the homes do take a dip, then what? You're at 110% loan to value for your mortgage or more. So, that's something to consider too, is making sure that you're in a position, as you said, Dave, where if you're putting, if you're going to your max capacity currently and you're putting 5% down, like, you need to make sure that you've had those conversations. You are, you do have cash flow every month, so you can maybe prepay that mortgage more or make a larger down payment just to give yourself that buffer. So you're not ever going to be in a position where, you're in a negative equity state and the bank can come and say, hey, we want this house now. Thanks.
Thank you, bank. Come and take my house. Is it gonna happen? I don't, man. I know what you're saying, but it's like you're right. You just have to really pay attention to what's going on and understand your circumstances. But like I said earlier, it's temporary. All of this is temporary. Like, you're not going to be, if you're in a situation right now, I believe anyways, if you're in a situation right now where you're stuck and you're paying interest only and you're freaking out, it's like, you really have to look at that, because if you are doing that, just understand how long you're going to be doing that for, and just, it will change. I mean, I think it'll change anyways, because as we've said before, if it keeps going, then the country will be bankrupt and it will make absolutely no sense to anyone. So it's a shift. It's just a shift. It's a new thing that's happening right now. And that's where we're at. You just have to pay attention.
And I think to that point, like, it's a new thing for first-time home buyers.
Yes.
People that are like, are at their late 30s and late 40s, that this is something that hasn't happened when they've owned a home. And so it's new and it's scary, and being like, having to be budget conscious, or where you started. If you got into a mortgage even in 2018 or 2019, your rate was 3%. And so you saw and you were jealous of your friends that got a place during COVID at 2%. And then coming out of it, you're like, oh shit, like this, like, how the frig am I going to make this payment? It's challenging. It's scary. It's tumultuous, but throughout time, you weather that storm and get through it and kind of rosier days at the other end. But I think it's, to me, it's really something that we just haven't gone through, like anywhere from the early 20s to, anyone that's basically, hell, we're all 40 and 50 and haven't gone through this before, let alone anyone younger than us. So
it's like I said, it's a new thing. There's a lot of new things happening. It's happened before, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like on my place, I'm paying like silly amount, but I'm already a year in now on 3 years. So it's like, I committed to 3 years and it's fine. I'm already a year done. Now I know what's up and I know the values where it's at and everything's okay. But it's challenging, people. Just call, talk, learn.
That's what I was gonna say, and we said it before. Before we took our hiatus, Paul and I were saying, like, if you think you're going to have issues, or you're currently having issues with payments, with your budget, speak to your mortgage professional of what your options are. You might be at a payment, like that variable payment, but there are ways in which you can still minimize that and lower it. And so work with things. Maybe it means consolidating a car loan into stuff where it kind of seems like you're growing your debt or mortgage debt, but it actually is helping your cash flow. And so just, really be vocal ahead of time with those professionals around you to analyze and not just wait until you're like up the creek.
Yeah. And the worst thing is, it's classic human nature, like probably more so in North America than anywhere else. Maybe I'm wrong, but we just wait until it's too late. You don't have those conversations. Don't wait until it's too late. But it's a trait that, humans, we generally do. We don't want to attack it. We don't want to know. We think everything's going to be okay. And then it's not. And you waste time thinking, waking up, oh my God. And then you just don't do it. Take action. Take fucking action. Let's go.
I do feel like there are a lot of conversations happening. Like, I think people are, and Greg, you mentioned it at the beginning of the show, like it is, July, midsummer, people are moving, traveling, camping, surfing. So, people are, I think, having those conversations. And that's why I think we're going to see, like, the fact that the market is, with everything that's happening, rates continuing to go up and seeing stagnant home price, like not even stagnant, like at par home prices for June and May. I think that's a sign of the resilience of the market. Like, I think we'll see, I guess, time will tell. But I think, if the prices stay where they are, it's likely due to the current summer months being what they are. And then I think September, we're going to start seeing prices go up again. And, I'm a January seller. You know what I mean? I think January is the best time to sell, even less supply. And just fire, just fire.
Yeah. Christmas seller. Best time.
Wine cellar would be the best. Christmas cellar.
I could go find a wine cellar right
tonight.
now. I wouldn't mind
that. Wine cellar is the number one. Any other questions? Anyone tuning in? Fire us your questions. If you're listening to this after the fact, certainly post your questions in the comments, and we'll get back on. And we're back Monday. We're going to be recording Mondays, releasing shows on Tuesdays.
We got a question that is just a doozy.
DH
is just looking to fire us up.
That's wild.
He doesn't want us to leave.
Just looking to freaking fire us up.
DH.
What are top of your list for ways to improve, not fix, just improve Canada's housing situation?
Who wants to go first?
It's a doozy. I'll take the bull by the horns. At the end of the day, we've said it numerous times, supply is an issue. Continuous supply, it's going to continue being a supply issue so long as we are have basically an open door immigration policy, which immigration is great, but at the numbers that we're bringing in right now, without the housing there to support and the affordable housing to support, we are going to be screwed. And at the federal level does not speak to the provincial or the municipal level. And at the end of the day, to push housing through, you require private enterprise developers to develop. And until it becomes streamlined at the municipal level to streamline and get permits and get building supply, get properties built in an efficient and cost-effective manner, then it's going to continue being an issue for housing. At the level of where we're at for cost, and to put cost into context for permits, building permits in Toronto for a single family home is $110,000. In Ottawa, you're looking at about $60,000. That is for a single family home. You're talking if you're on condos or rentals, you're at about $15,000 per unit for one bedroom. You're about $20,000 for a two bedroom. So somebody building before getting into renting it out, before getting into architectural fees, cash in lieu of parkland, any of these others. For a 24 unit, you're talking $500,000 out of pocket before you've broken ground. And that's before architecturals, that's before studies, that's before anything else. So you're massively in the hole. So reducing cost to developers is going to be huge to build supply and build affordable supply, because we can build places for people to live. But if we're building places for people to live that is just astronomically high, it's not helping anyone, especially those million people that we just brought in last year, or 500,000 people that we just brought in this year. And that's going to grow going forward. So the feds need to speak to the province, that need to speak to municipality, that need to speak to and talk to private developers, because government is not building anything. They can't effectively and efficiently, cost effectively build anything. And that's proven at everything they do in every level of, even changing a light bulb. And that sounds ridiculous. But when you look at what has to be sent out on the government level for an RFP to get in a contractor to change a light bulb in somewhere, and it costs hundreds of dollars to change a light bulb, because they have to send it out to 4 contractors that know that they have a budget that below a certain threshold, they can just sign off on it, and who gives a shit, and they don't care about their jobs, like what they oversight. They're not looking to cut money in their roles in the Fed or the province or anything like that. They just sign off on it. And so it becomes a vicious cycle, but it really becomes like, how do you fix it? There are so many ways in which it needs to be addressed that it's not one area. Sorry for the rant.
And no. And the other thing that a lot of people don't consider is that, like, the average age of the general contractor, I believe, or like, people working in this industry is about, I think is it 40 years old now. So, there's a lot of people who are going to be exiting that career path of working in the home building business. And the number of people coming in that want to actually do that is very limited. Even with immigrants, people don't want to do this kind of work. A lot of people just don't generally want to do it. So I feel that in the future, in the coming future, there's going to be way more prefab homes built in the factory. The developers will buy land, and then it'll just be like a prefab lot. They'll build it in the factory, and they'll bring it in, and they'll put it up, because there's not as many actual workers that want to work, because we're in a new era. Technology work over labor, and the laborers, the people that are able laborers that might be coming through immigration, they don't want to do it either. They did it where they came from. They come here, they don't want to do it. So that's another thing that I see as a big change in Canada's housing situation specifically. I don't know when that's going to happen, but if you follow some of the new technology and everything, I think prefab homes are definitely going to be a gold mine for a lot of people, and it's going to be much more affordable for many home buyers. It could be a big shift in the market. That's my opinion on that.
3D homes. Steven said, print more homes, not money.
Yeah. Hold on. So Gabriel Rios had a question that we didn't address. Do you see the price of homes going up in the outskirts of Ottawa too, like Carleton Place, Stittsville? They already are. Stittsville, Ashton, they already are going up, but you're going to get way more value out there than you will within the city. When you say Ashton, if you want to live out there, I would absolutely 100% go buy out there. One of the companies that we met with the other day, BLD, like they're building fabulous homes out there.
The model home's open now. BLD
not to
homes.
say that they're cheap, but you can get something nice out there. And when you're buying out in the outskirts, you're going to go through the fluctuations as well. But in the end, if you're living in your paradise, if you don't want to live in the city, by all means, go that route. You're going to get way more bang for your buck for sure. But they will go up. Yes.
Just put the link in the chat.
Producer Steve, don't print money, print homes.
Don't print money, print homes, right? It's true though. Man,
that 3D print those homes.
That is a great summary of how to improve the Canadian housing situation. Don't print money, print homes.
But it's true. The workers don't want to do it, or they're not paid enough. Plus with the taxes situations, it's like there's a lot of great homes now that are being built prefab, just dropped on lots, all different styles, and you can help build it yourself. You can pay $100,000, find the lot, put it up. Depends on what you need, but that's going to be a big thing soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Love you guys.
I feel like it's been a little while.
It has.
It's been a long time.
This is actually great. This is a very I don't even know what this show was tonight. It was
a conversation. It's basically just a catch up.
It was a catch up, but it was very serious.
I said to somebody today,
very serious tonight.
We went 136 episodes without a week off.
No, we took a break last summer.
Did we?
Yeah, we took 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks last summer.
Really?
Don't lie.
Yeah. No, we did for sure. Steven?
Paul would know, I suppose.
Steven will know.
He says yes. Damn it. I don't remember that.
I know. I can tell you exactly what weeks they were. No.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I don't know if we talked about this or if it was, I can't remember if I sent it in our chat or if I actually talked about it in the last episode, but when you're talking about it must have been in our chat because it's been a while, but when the new mayor of Toronto came in, she basically said that she was going to build 25,000 homes. I think I sent you guys this.
Good for her.
And she was going to do it so that it was completely government funded. So she wouldn't have to pay, the permits, any of the basically any of the fees that you would require to build a home privately. She's just going to skip all that just to make it easier to build those homes. So that's very nice of her to do that.
Well, you know what?
I don't think we want the government controlling the actual builds. You know what I mean? It's one thing if we've seen how they manage most things. No offense to any hardworking government employees that are listening.
There will be an incident.
But it would be challenging for them to manage those projects, I would imagine.
I think, if they can accomplish that and build 25,000 affordable housing units under $100 billion, because that's what basically that will cost on the government level.
Yeah, we've allocated $1 billion per home build.
Godspeed.
And guess where that'll come from, gentlemen?
You just wonder how sometimes they just like, I'm gonna do this, and then they get offline and someone goes like, what did you just say?
Yeah. How many?
What was that? What? Like, how did you what? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, gentlemen, should we jump into some mood boosts?
Oh shit, mood boosts. Yes, please, Paul. Do you have these?
Yes, I'll throw some mood boosts your way, and if you have any other questions, throw them in the chat. Mood boost. Number one, I picked 4 out. I had a couple to choose from, but these are my favorite, somewhat real estate related as well. Number one, what did Mariah Carey say when her boyfriend bought her an undeveloped patch of land for Christmas? I'm not going to sing it, but I don't want a lot for Christmas.
Oh.
Thanks, but no thanks.
That was terrible.
Number two, speaking of household debts in Canada, what do you call a man in debt? Owen.
I like that.
He's Owen. That's Owen. I can't believe, number 3, I can't believe someone broke into my house and stole all my fruit. I'm now peachless. No, summer peaches, summer.
Didn't hit.
Last but not least, an armed man ran into a real estate agency and shouted, "Nobody move!" No?
Yeah.
That was so dumb. It was funny.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, wait a minute. Oh God.
It also reminded me, Paul, of those the 2 videos that we were sharing that of the guy running into like rob a place and just nobody cared.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like, just ignored him, and he was just like, "What?" and just left.
Just ducked out. Like, I could just leave now, and nobody will notice. I don't get arrested.
That's what that reminded me of.
Yeah, he had
Everyone just went about getting their nails done and didn't care. Anyways,
so lots happening in the markets. We'll be here every week. We're back now.
Yeah,
we're back in the saddle.
Back.
And that's it. Follow us. Subscribe. We love you. This is usually where Steve cuts us off.
Saddle up, suckers. Yeah. Saddle up. Because it's going to be a bumpy road.
End of 2023, I think will be very interesting. We're going to see, we'll see where home prices go. Next week, I think we make official predictions for the end of 2023. I think we made predictions at the beginning of this year, so we should see where we sit. I think we were saying rates might even come down at this point, so you have to put my foot in my mouth potentially, but we'll actually, no, I think I said it'll come down a quarter point by the end of the year, which is looking very unlikely. But we'll see. We'll see.
It's possible.
Crazy times.
I like DH's comment. I'm a government employee. No offense taken.
Oh,
you're right.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen.
Yes.
We'll see who pushes the button next, and we'll talk about that then.
See you later. Deuces.
Deuces.
You're clear.
Well, that was